What is up, photographers? Welcome back, or if you're new here, thank you for stopping by. Today we're talking all things Lightroom related. Catalogs, Lightroom Classic versus CC. Should be using both of them. Well, essentially I'm going to say yes, because what I'm going to show you today is how to marry the two of those applications to become a super user. I've been using my Lightroom catalog since about 2010, so that puts me at about 12 years, give or take. I've broken this thing. I've had the dreaded missing files, missing photos, etc. Basically, I've broken my catalogs more times than I can count, but I've never lost a photo, and I don't plan on doing that anytime soon. Buckle up, grab a drink. It's going to be a long one. I'm going to try to put timestamps below. If you're new to Lightroom, hopefully this is going to be like just a basic crash course. If you've been using it and you want to optimize your workflow or whatever, I'm going to share with you my workflow. And it starts with the iPad, honestly. I do all my editing on the iPad and the iPhone, and then everything syncs nicely through the cloud to Lightroom Classic. So let's get into this. Before we start, there are a few things that are kind of required. Obviously, you need an iPad. The pencil is optional, but it's very handy to be able to edit directly onto your photos. Otherwise, everything within the iPad and iPhone is magical and buttery because you're using your fingers. Pinch to zoom, there's gestures, so much quicker and easier than editing with a keyboard and mouse. That's the number one reason why I adapted this workflow. And number two reason is I love being able to edit photos in my bed late at night or on the toilet or, like I said, in the car, not while I'm driving as a passenger. The photos are always with you because they're in the cloud. You can access them on any device. All right, so you need your iPad, pencil optional. You're going to need this SD dongle because that's how you're going to get the photos into the iPad off your camera. Next up, this is what I recommend. A little what is this? This is a SanDisk 1 terabyte portable SSD hard drive. This is going to be the master. This is going to be where your catalog lives. This is where all your recent shoots are going to live. And then what I always say is you need a backup and a backup of your backup. So this is your catalog. This is where the Lightroom sync is going to sync the things to. But as that fills up and as your cloud storage backs up, you need to move those files off of there. And I suggest getting 2 of these. They're on sale. They're like 50% off right now. I'll link everything below, like I said. They're just WD Elements passports. I can label these like 2022. And I know that I have the original copies and then the backup of the backup, if that makes sense. So 2 terabyte external hard drives as well. I'm going to break down this all very shortly, but if your needs are different than mine, I don't do a lot of video work, so my magic number is 2 terabytes. I found that over the years, 2 terabytes give me a lot of photo storage and then a lot of videos for that particular year. Maybe you can get by with 1 terabyte. Oh, and then the reason why I went with a 1 terabyte SSD is because my current subscription to Adobe allows for 1 terabyte in the cloud storage, but I have an enterprise, I think, through my work. Check your local listings and adjust accordingly. The SSD, it's fast, it's reliable, never had any issues. I think that's all you need. And a positive attitude. Have a positive attitude and a smile. Let's hop in the computer. I'm just going to break some things down for you quick in Photoshop. Because I'm a visual learner, I think this will help. So essentially what we have here is I have my cloud plan. I've already stated that. I have 1 terabyte of cloud storage with Adobe Creative Cloud. So what I do typically is I match that with my 1 terabyte SSD. The 1 terabyte SSD, like I said, is kind of like that staging or holding ground for any of those recent things. As you don't need them, I highly suggest moving them off of that and already backing them up and archiving them on these other 2 drives. Okay, from there, like I just said, the 2 terabyte WD passport drives. And like I said, I pick 2 of these up every year based on my needs. It's the 2 terabytes. Think of it as like the master and then the backup. So from the 1 terabyte, once again, working files only. When I'm done with these, when I'm done sharing them with the client through the cloud, I put them on the master backup. After I have them on the master backup, I have a backup of the master backup. You see what's going on here? We got working files, so they're not going to be always on here. These are just working files. The master and the copy. If you want to go even extra, which most people would recommend this, you should have a backup of your backup, and that should be at your mom's house, honestly. You can never have too much storage and basically covering your ass with your backups. Let me just break down my workflow too while I have you here in Photoshop. So it starts on the iPad. I import everything from the camera. The SD card goes into the iPad Pro that I have through Lightroom. I create albums, etc., and then it syncs to the cloud. So as I'm importing, you'll see there's a little task, and I'll try to share that with you today. It's going to import them to the iPad, but it's not actually importing the raw files onto your device. That's where people might get confused. It's not going to the device. When you import it into Lightroom on your iPad, it's, I think, importing the proxies, but those raw files are going to the cloud. And then when you fire up your desktop or whatever, those files will sync from the cloud and get backed up onto here. And I say backed up, it's not really backed up. It's the destination where these files are going to currently live. From there, that's when I do my backup. So after they've gotten pulled down from the cloud, and sometimes it takes a while because if you're shooting a lot of photos or heavy megapixel photos like with the A7R4 like I am, it's going to take a while, and it's dependent on your internet connection obviously. But once it's all downloaded, you can then either manually back them up on these two drives or use an application that I use. What is it called? Carbon Copy Cloner. When I have it on one file or one hard drive, I tell it to back it up so it's an exact copy to the second hard drive. Whew. Okay, now that we got the visualization out of the way, let's start this off. So one thing I do want to point out, this is my working SSD. This is the 1 terabyte SSD. I have a folder for my catalog. This is where my catalog lives. And then I have photos and videos. As you can see, the way that I organize my folder structures, I go year, and then I go a year, month, day breakdown, and then a description of what I was doing that day. Most of these aren't going to be very descriptive because I haven't shot anything except maybe one thing in here, two things in here for clients. But if I had a drone day or if I was just driving around or walking in nature, that's how I label them. And then the videos, like I said, I do a little bit of video work. I do the same process. I just yearly folder and then date them the same. What you're going to want to back up, well, you want to back up all of it probably, but I back up my photos and my catalog. Always, always, always. I can't stress that enough because if you lose that catalog, man, you're going to be crying. And I'm going to say, I told you to back it up 3 times and you didn't listen. All right, so that's the folder structure. This is my old drive. As you can see, same structure folder or photos and videos. I did change up how I'm doing this. This was my synced folder, and I'll show you that in a second. But as you can see, I'm going all the way back to 2005, and I'll show that when I get into Lightroom. So let's open up Lightroom Classic because this is where we're going to have to set some things up. All right, this is going to be tough because now that I've got Lightroom Classic open, I'm going to try to talk to 2 different people here. People who have never used Lightroom Classic or Lightroom at all, and they're going to want to set this up, and people that currently already have a catalog or multiple catalogs. The first thing, well, first of all, if you've never used Lightroom, sit tight or click the timestamp below because this isn't going to be relevant to you. If you currently have a catalog or multiple catalogs, this is where you're going to need to pay attention to set this up. You're going to want to set up one master catalog, and honestly, you should only be using one catalog at a time. I never had one master or just one catalog. That's the way that Lightroom is intended to work. Think of it as like Lightroom Classic is like Google is to the internet. You know, it's like an indexing. It finds things, but if you move something, it's not going to find it. So there's only one Google. So that's your Lightroom catalog. You shouldn't have multiple. I know people sometimes would set them up by project and etc. That's not really the most efficient way to do it. One catalog. So if you're looking at me now and you're saying, Ross, where do I start? Because I already got multiple catalogs. I got you because like I said, I've broken this multiple times, and honestly, just yesterday I had broken it again. But what you want to do, as long as you have those catalogs, let me go back and look at my old one here. So I'm in Media 4. This is my old drive. If I go into here, this is where I know I had the 2 different catalogs. So this is like sometimes when Lightroom updates, it needs to create a new version. So this was my most recent version. What I would do if I were you, don't move any of your photos. What you need to do, and maybe you start with a fresh drive because that's what I did with this one. You want to basically consolidate them into one. So if you have them across multiple drives, what I would do is you're probably gonna have to plug them in one at a time. But what you need to do is go File, Import from another catalog. What you want to do is consolidate all those catalogs. You want one catalog, one master. I'm not going to stress that enough either because it's going to help you navigate in here. And I'll show you what I mean by that. So what I will actually do, because all I want to show you right now is my working catalog, I'm going to quit. I'm going to quit this and I'm going to eject my old drive because this is where people also get tripped up. If I open Classic now, it's going to look like I'm missing photos. Just hang with me because this is what's going to happen to you. Let's say you have 12 drives that you have 12 different catalogs on. It's just going to show up as missing over here. Don't touch it because we know it's missing because as you see here, the drive is not even mounted. So that's what you just ignore it. That's what Lightroom's good at. First step to existing users, just one master. If you already have a master, perfect. You're already ahead of the game. You're better than I was for 10 years. Okay, once you have that set up, you need to set up how you want Lightroom to sync. And we have to set it up in Classic first before we start using the Lightroom CC or Lightroom Cloud. The way we do that, if you don't have this tab open here, there's a little arrow at the top. And as you can see, yours might look different over here. It might have like books, slideshow, web. I don't use any of those, so I think you can go into settings and disable them. So I have library developed. You use this little tab down, up, down to open it up, and you need to see this little cloud icon. You're going to click this, and this is where your sync dialog is, I guess. Currently, I'm all synced up. You can pause and start it. If you haven't started it, it's probably, well, you got to set it up before you can start it. But then it also show you how much cloud storage you currently have. Click on the little gear cog icon, whatever it is called these days. And then this is where the magic is going to happen. There's options here. I always prevent the system from sleep during sync, because if it goes to sleep, it's not going to sync. But this is where you need to specify where you want these synced photos to go. So as you can see, mine is in the volume. This is my SSD. And then it's in that. I'm just going to, if you click this, it's in here, photos. So I'm going to cancel because I just want to show you, you need to basically set up the folder structure before, or you can do it here. You can click new folder, etc. I'm going to cancel out of that. And then here's another important thing. You need to set up how you want your subfolders to be formatted. Once again, I have mine to go by year, and then they're going to go into a dated folder. This is just for the initial sync. Once it is fully synced, you can rename these. And I'm going to put a caveat there is when you rename it, you need to rename it through Lightroom. If you right click on these, you can see none of these follow the current, if I just, let's pull this back up actually. None of these folders or directories over here match this file naming system, but they did. It's just because once they synced, I was able to rename it. But you need to do it within Lightroom. If you don't do it in Lightroom, it's going to, if you did it in Finder, for instance, let's just show you quick what's going to happen. It'll show up, it's going to show up as a missing folder. If that does happen to you, which it will do sometimes, if you right click, you can find the missing folder. Drill down, and I had just named it drones. So then it'll update here. But I would just say, when you're doing just one folder at a time, rename it in here. It's going to save you a headache. If you're moving multiple folders, which hopefully you should never have to, but if you do, do it in Finder, and then one by one, you're going to have to right click and find the missing folders in here. But don't worry about that. Okay, where were we at? We're booking here. Okay, so once we have this set up, we're basically ready to go. So we're gonna next hop onto the iPad, and I'm gonna show you how the magic happens. Alrighty, we are gonna hop onto the iPad now. I got my SD card, I got my dongle. Such a fun word to say. You're gonna plug this in, and then open Lightroom. All right, we're in the iPad. As you can see on the left-hand side here, these are my current folders, not folders. These are current albums within that 2022 folder down here. So basically you have folders, and then within the folders there are albums. So my folder structure once again is by year. So I have 2022 here. If I click into this, I want to add a new album, and then I'm going to follow my naming convention here. 2022. It's the 11th of February, and we're going to do this as tutorial. Hit OK. Now I'm going to click on that folder. And as you can see, the album's empty. So you just hit the little plus icon down here and go from camera device. It's going to be smart. It's going to show us, let's see here. Yeah, it's just all the photos. I was going to say there was videos on this card too, but I'm just going to click this and hit import. Just beautiful photos of me sitting at my desk. So what you're going to happen, or what you're going to notice now, is a few things happening. I'm importing on the iPad. I'm going to hit OK. We can close this. And it did say I can now I think remove the dongle. What I always like to do though is if I click the little cloud up here in the upper right, it's going to show what's importing and what's uploading. While that's operating, I'm going to just quickly go over the iPad. If you never use Lightroom on iPad, I love it. Obviously, you can pinch the zoom out or in here, and this is just kind of like the basic library view. When you click into a particular photo, that's where you can then edit. If you look at the right-hand side, you have the edit panel, you have presets, you have your crop tool, you have healing, you have masking. The one right below that's grayed out that's how you apply previous edits, and then you have a history or versions here. What you can also do on the iPad, it's a little bit different on the iPhone, I believe, but while you're in, actually no, you got to go into these modes down here. There's a rate mode, a comment mode, and then tags and info. So this is where you could add titles, captions, and here you can add keywords if you want to. I usually would leave that until I actually get them synced up in Lightroom Classic because it's a little bit easier in there. But what I typically do is how I start. I actually start calling my images on the iPad because I can quickly swipe through these. I can zoom in quick. I can see that one's obviously out of focus. So on the right-hand side, if you swipe down, that's a reject. If you swipe up, that's a select. On the left-hand side, if you swipe up, you get your star ratings. So let's see. Do I have any of these that are in focus? Oh, brother. None of these are going to be in focus because I didn't choose my focus point. But for the sake of this, let's say that's a select and that's a select. I should have really looked at how my camera was set up here. Anyways, it's cool because that's all going to sync to Classic while this is going. So let's see how it's going. I got slow internet, so it's not even going too fast. Let's see if it's doing anything in here yet. It's not, but you can see up here in the upper right on Lightroom Classic, it is syncing. So as they're uploading, it's syncing one photo at a time. And I believe it's right here. You can see the date on it. 2022, February 11th, and it's uploading that. All right, so we'll wait for those to come through, but it's actually really cool. You can quickly edit in here. So I'm just going to do an auto adjustment here. You can go into light and you have histogram, all of these. You have color. You can do color mixing. So let's say that I wanted to make these yellows more orange or more green. You can do it selectively by clicking that little eyedropper if I want to maybe bring up the purples in hue or saturation. It's really robust, but the main thing, this isn't going to be a tutorial on this. The main thing that I like about this is I can quickly apply all these edits to all the photos. So if I just click this and go copy settings, I can select what settings I want. And then if I click on the arrows here, I can go down and stay specifically, like if I only wanted the exposure or contrast, etc. I want everything, so I hit the little checkbox. Then I go back to the main library area. The three dots in the upper right allows you to select, and if I just select them all, I can hit paste, and that's going to paste all the settings very quickly. That's one of the reasons why if you're not using Lightroom or Lightroom CC, you really should, because it's very robust. Like I said, it's kind of like Google. It's going to index and search and add keywords and basically hold all your edits, but it's really quick. But as you can see, those edits are then applied. Let's see if any have come through yet. Okay, yes. So your photos do come automatically onto that SD card. That's where we basically set up the path, as you can see here. This is the naming convention. Before we can rename it, we got to make sure they all sync. So that's what's going to be 2022-02-11. And as you can see, they're pulling in here. The other thing that it does that I really actually enjoy is it creates these smart collections. And you can see the photos are coming in here too. This is important because this is probably how I would share it to clients. And this is also how, if you already have photos within your catalog that you want to add to Lightroom CC. As you can see over here on the left side, there's this little icon. If you hover over it, it's going to tell you what's going on here. It says it's syncing 7 photos. If you click that, it's going to stop syncing those photos, but it doesn't actually remove them from your cloud storage. It's kind of confusing. This is where you would think that if I unsync these, they're going to remove them from the cloud. They're not removing them from your drive, right? They're already on your drive. It's just going to remove them from the cloud, you would think, but it doesn't. What you have to do, let's say your cloud storage is getting full and you need space, you need to go into the all synced photographs. So as you can see here, I have 288 that are currently synced. So let's say I wanted to unsync, let's say my storage is full and I need to basically free up space in my storage, which obviously it's not. I'm only at like 5 gigs. But for the sake of for conversation, what I typically do, if you don't see this library filter toolbar, I guess, I think it's backspace. The backspace will hide and show that. What I like to do is I go into, is it attribute? No, I go into metadata. And then it'll, I filter by date, essentially. So this is really cool. So let's say I'm so full and I want to get rid of some of the earliest ones in January. I can click on this and it's going to filter all the photos that were shot on January 8th. So that's those. So I could just highlight all of these. If I right click then, I can remove these from all synced photographs. So I'm going to do that quick because I want to show you what happens. So I'm going to remove them here. It's probably going to take a second. So let's go down to our smart folder here. And it would be these ones, I believe. So as you can see, this smart collection is now empty. So we could delete that if we want. Obviously, you can see that it's still syncing, or it's got that sync icon. But if I go up here, I have all the photos. They're still in here. Trust me when I say that. Let's see if I can actually find them, just so you can verify. These ones, they were mostly of me and of this place. So they don't leave your drive. That's just how you get them out of your synced, out of your storage, if you will. So these are all the ones that are currently synced. But like I said, I like to drill down by the metadata to find them that way. So now that I've taken those out of my synced cloud storage, what I'm going to go down, here and basically get rid of this this empty folder. Actually, I'll leave it. I'll do that later. What I want to show you though is if I go back onto the iPad now, you can see that I have these 2 folders, and I bet they actually I think they probably had the same photos in them. You can see they're no longer in there. So I can right-click, or not right-click, click on the 3 dots and delete it. It's not going to get rid of any As you can see, it will get rid of the album, but the photos will not get deleted. And do that for both of them. Guys, I'm telling you, once I figured out this workflow, one catalog, set up your sync, edit on your iPad. Oh, the other thing too, where the frick? I lost my phone. But you pull them up on the phone too. They're synced. It's amazing. Let's see if they're in here now. 2011. Here you go. As you can see, it's got my selects. It's got my rejects. It's got all my edits. If I go in here and go into develop, once again, this isn't going to be a tutorial on how to edit or anything like that. And clearly these photos are not very good. But it's got all my edits. It's amazing. Everything is there. You guys need to start utilizing this. I'm telling you, it changed my workflow. I am so much faster now. I can get these on the iPad right away, start editing them. I can go watch TV with the family. On the commercial breaks, I can pull them up on my phone and start editing them. Copy those edits to multiple photos. Do my cropping. Do my watermarking even on the iPad and on the iPhone. It's robust. And then where the heavy lifting happens is when I'm ready to go to bed or whatever, I just plug in my SSD into my computer and fire up Classic, and overnight they will download from the cloud onto that. And then in the morning, I go into this app called Carbon Copy Cloner. This is the last little bit. This is how I back things up. As you can see, I don't have these hard drives currently mounted, but I hook up those two 2-terabyte drives. Once I copy the files from the SSD onto one of them, I say, okay, back them up from my source to the destination. If you wanted to set a schedule, you could, if you always have your hard drives mounted, but I don't. So I do this kind of manually. The other thing is you don't have to buy this. This is a paid app, like $50 or whatever. You can do it manually, just dragging and dropping within Finder. But yeah, I prefer the automation of all this. I think I need a beer, first of all. And I think I did cover everything, did I? I think the main takeaways are set up that one master catalog. You should be working in Lightroom Classic with one catalog anyways. You can then, let's do this live. Let me remount my old drive, and you'll see, because I have Lightroom open, if I go back into the library, you'll see the drive should become active here if it mounts correctly. There it is. Yep, there she popped in, and I have access to all my photos dating back to 2005 when I was in Scotland. Look at that young little chap. Okay, the last thing I need to show you though is if your SSD drive is filling up, what you need to do is move these folders, these directories onto your backup. So for now, I have enough space on my Media 4 that I can create a 2022 folder on there and back them up on there. So what I'm going to do is open a new Finder window. Once again, you could do this within Lightroom, but when I'm moving files like this, I like to do it actually in Finder and then find the missing directory within Lightroom. And I'm going to demonstrate that real quick here. So let's say I wanted to archive and back these my January 8th drone shots. What I would do is I would go into 2022 drone, drag this directory onto 2022 in my Passport external hard drive. You can see it's 8 gigabytes. It's going to take a while. What we're going to do is essentially just point Lightroom to the new location. All right, 121's in there. Now what I'm going to do is I got 1.8 and 121. There's two things that we could do. We could delete those directories in here now on our current master, but I'll do it once by deleting it, and then I'll do the other one the second way that you can do it. So if I delete this, it's going to come up as a missing. If you're doing this, caveat, make sure your files are actually moved, because if you delete them, obviously they're gone. But I'm going to delete this. I'm not too concerned about that. If I go in here now, I'm going to have this missing folder. I could say find missing folder, right? So then I need to drill down, and I'm not even on this drive anymore. I need to go to my Media 4 drive, Photos, Lightroom, 2021, and it was this, right? 108. So what you're going to see is it should move. It got out of my SSD, so let's go into here. And as you can see now, this 2022 folder is added here. The second way that we can do this, if you didn't want to delete it and you want to make sure that absolutely your files are moved. So I have my 121 folder directory on my backup, and I have my 121 folder still on my SSD. So what you can do is if you go into this folder that's currently on your SSD, where is it at here? 121. If you right click, you can update the folder location. This is probably the preferred method because you're not deleting anything and you can watch it move and then you can get rid of it. So then it's the same thing. You basically just drill down to your Media 4, Photos, Lightroom Sync, 2021, and that's the 121 because everything's the same. It's like a 1-to-1. We're just pointing it in a different direction here. So as you can see, let's open Media 4 back up. I have the 1.8 and the 121 folders there. And yeah, it moved it out of here. But then we have to clean it out of the SSD. So as I'm in my SSD now, it's already, Lightroom has basically relinked it. Once again, if you're kind of a web developer, designer, you kind of understand how this is working. We've relinked it to map to our Media 4 drive, but we can now get rid of it in the SSD. Once again, you need to be certain about where you're deleting or moving files. That's the only caveat of this. That's kind of the only pain, but I know I can delete that one. And on a Mac, obviously, if I screw that up, I can always hit Command-Z to undo it. There you go. I think I covered everything. You set up a catalog. You have one master catalog. Has all your working files on it. You need to back those up regularly onto a master backup and then have a copy of that backup. As this bad boy fills up, do what we just showed you. Just move files onto the passport drives as that backup. I hope that makes sense. And then back it up with Carbon Copy Cloner or manually. Before you do any of that, if you're new to sync, you need to set up your sync settings. It's pretty easy. Once again, I always just sync it to my SSD. It's a little bit faster. It's a little bit more reliable. It's going to have all my working files in that one spot. So that's why I do that. Come up with your naming convention as you see fit. That's one thing that I do need to follow up on too. Actually, let's just finish it now because it looks like all, was it 12 photos that yeah, we're all synced. I got the green check up here. So it says we're all synced, locked and loaded. So now this is where I would do it in Lightroom. If I right click on this, hit rename, we're going to call this, just get rid of the dashes, and we're going to call it tutorial. I'm going to save that. The other thing, now that that is named, it pops down here because I like to go top to bottom. And then also there's this smart collection, which at default, it just puts it in this from Lightroom collection. I created these collection sets by year once again. So I can drag and drop that into my 2022 smart collection set. Yeah. Okay. And then I'll get rid of these guys because I had moved and deleted those from sync. All right. It was a lot. If there are questions, comments, concerns, leave them below in the comments and I'll try to help you out. Once again, just to recap, main thing, one catalog, multiple drives. That's how you're going to map all this stuff. When you freak out and you don't see, you have the dreaded question marks of missing files and folders, don't freak out right away. It's probably because your drive's not mounted. This is expandable. I could add the other 3 drives that I have in here. I haven't done that yet because I have to go to that file, import from another catalog. Because what that does is it basically says, okay, here's where all these files are currently mapped with all their settings and edits and everything. We're just going to now import those into this master catalog. This is going to be a game changer for you guys that have multiple catalogs. That's going to be the easiest way to get them into one master. But you need to set up whatever hard drive you're using as that master. Just back up. That's all I can say. And oh, the other thing I forgot to mention is you don't have to import on the iPad. You can import the same old school way that you've done it in Classic prior, or if you haven't and you want to. So let me go into this 2019, well, what's one? Let's see here. 2008 has 8 photos in it. So let's say I've imported them here. So let's say I just imported these, but they're not in the cloud. How do I get them in the cloud, Ross? I think what we need to do is just create a smart collection. So I'm going to create create a collection set. I'm going to call it, what was it, 2008? I think that's what it was. We're going to put it in from Lightroom because that's going to allow us to do that synchronization. It's got to be a collection. The collections are where you're going to be able to do that. Now, if I grab all these and I go create collections from selected folders. Here they are. It puts them at that root level. So I'm going to grab all these and I'm going to move them into 2008. Once again, this is for my organization, but as you can see now if I check these, they will sync. And you'll see, hopefully up here, it'll start syncing. But I'm going to grab that iPad once again, and we're going to see if they actually did sync up. Yep, here we go, syncing 8 photos. It's going to take a hot minute here. But yeah, you can see they're coming through. Once again, it's just at the default album level, but you can see 2008, 07, 07, 08, 11, 08, 12, and 10, 15. So those will pull down. So that's how you would be able to share them. You need to create collections of whatever you want to be able to share in the cloud. But that's a more convoluted way. I much prefer importing on the iPad and having the cloud pull them down for me. It's just much easier. But if you have old photos like that you want to get to clients or whatever, you can do it that way. So It's been a mouthful. It's been a long, wild ride, but I hope you've learned something. If you have any questions, like I said, leave them down below, and I will try to get them answered. If you are interested in more Lightroom CC, Lightroom Classic stuff, I plan on doing some more editing and how you share things with clients, etc. Because one thing that is very powerful with Lightroom, not Lightroom Classic, is the share functionality, how you can share photos. They share in a beautiful gallery. And the other thing that we didn't touch on today is you can edit your photos in a web browser. So if you don't have access to your tablet or your hard drive, if they're in the cloud and you have access to a computer, you just go lightroom.adobe.com, sign into your account, and all your photos are there. You click on one at a time and you can edit them. Obviously, I don't think it's as robust as like the iPad or on your phone, but if you're in a pinch, you can edit photos on a gosh darn web browser. Okay, I swear I'm done. This video is going to be way too long, and I'm dreading editing it. Keep shooting, keep creating, and until next time, peace out.